Oh dear. Welcome back to another episode of Who the F***. It's the show that aims to take a deep dive into some of the acts announced for Reading and Leeds 2019. In today's episode, we're looking at Laura Jane Grace and the Devouring Mothers. It's going to be a fun one to animate. They're a punk rock band, like a through and through punk band, based out of Chicago. If you've never heard of them before, hopefully this video will help answer the question, who the f*** is Laura Jane Grace and the Devouring Mothers? Now, I can't find a lot about the Devouring Mothers, but I think this is mainly a solo project of Laura Jane Grace. She's based in Chicago, Illinois. As I said earlier, punk rock through and through, like DIY punk. They're really cool. I've just listened to the album the whole way through, and I get elements of people like Placebo.
I was alone, falling free, trying my best not to forget.
Lots of kind of Frank Turner. If you've ever listened to a Frank Turner record, it's that kind of vocal delivery, very clear delivered message, and also reminds me of people like Marilyn Manson. Now, I saw in an interview with Laura that she doesn't really like Marilyn Manson, but I think if you listen to the record, what record is it? If you listen to the record China Beach, that's got a real Manson vibe for me. I'm not saying she's taking influence, but you know, sorry. At age 13, she played bass in her first band. They were known as the Black Shadows and the Leather Dice, as they could never work out which name it should be. An arrest at age 14 solidified her aversion for authority. After this, she decided she came across the band Crass, the British punk band Crass, just a band.
Clash, just a band. Crass, just a band.
Calling them, to me, the best band to ever blend music and politics. She would then go on to play bass for a band called The Adversaries, and following the breakup of The Adversaries, she would have a brief stint playing for the band Common Affliction. This was in 1996. The ending of Common Affliction led her to record the first demo for the band Against Me. Against Me would go on to release 7 albums in total. Their first, Against Me is Reinventing Axl Rose, great name, was released on No Idea Records, an indie punk label based out of Gainesville, Florida. Their second and third albums, Against Me and The Eternal Cowboy and Searching for a Form of Clarity, were released on Fat Wreck Chords. Clever. Another indie punk label based out of San Francisco. But their fourth and fifth albums, New Wave and White Crosses, will be signed to Sire Records, a subsidiary of UMG, making it not very punk, because punk is punk, and the major 3 labels are not punk. In 2010, they had to cancel a series of tours, which would also lead them to leaving Sire Records. And Laura would then go on to buy an abandoned post office, which she would turn into a recording studio. This was called Total Treble Studios, and she would also start a record company to go alongside it for future Against Me releases called Total Treble Music. Great name, like that. They would then go on to release their 6th and 7th album, Transgender Dysphoria Blues, Shapeshift With Me, on Total Treble Music and Extra Mile Recordings. It's really important that I just add in here as well that they're signed, that they released 2 of those records on Extra Mile Recordings, which is the same record label that people like Frank Turner, Flogging Molly, Beans on Toast, they're all signed to that record label too. I didn't put that in, so we'll pop it in now. But the Total Treble studio had to be closed in 2013 after it was hit significantly with a storm, which is utterly heartbreaking. This band has gone from indie, major, break up with a major, start their own label, start their own studio, and that gets ripped apart by a storm. In July of 2018, she would announce that she was going to release an album in the fall of 2018 under the name Laura Jane Grace and the Devouring Mothers. This would be released on Bloodshot Records. They're an independent label based out of Chicago that specialises in roots-infused punk, indie rock, and alternative country. Standout tracks on this album include China Beach, not just because it's the first track, because it is a good first track. I Hate Chicago, which has a really great music video, especially if you're a fan of Wayne's World.
No stairway, denied.
And Screamy Dreamy, which has this kind of Band of Horses funeral sound to it, which I think is wicked. drums are great. I listened to it like 20 times on repeat today. It's a really cool record. Their most popular record is the song Manic Depression. Currently sat on 65,000 views on YouTube, and this is their first time playing the festival as Laura Jane Grace and the Devouring Mothers. However, Against Me played 4 times. The first time was in 2006, that's where I get to go back to this poster, was in 2006 alongside Flogging Molly, Alexis on Fire, Anti-Flag and Real Big Fish on the Lock-Up stage. Second was in 2007, again before my time. They would play the Lock-Up stage again, sharing the stage with Gallows, Cancer Bats, Turbo Negro and Newfound Glory. Again, they would play in 2010, sharing the stage with Hatebreed and Alkaline Trio. And the last time was in 2015 when they played the main stage, sharing the lineup with Feed the Rhino, Lonely the Brave, the Gaslight Anthem, the Cribs, the Maccabees, Jamie T and the Libertines. Oh, and a little known rapper called Kendrick Lamar. God, that was a good gig. This year, Laura's returning with her new band, the Devouring Mothers, to take to the pit stage on the Friday at Reading, Saturday at Leeds, playing in between Puppy and Pup. You know, I approached the research for each of these videos differently. Sometimes I just jump straight to YouTube and start watching interviews. Sometimes I listen to their most popular track to see if I know it and know of them. Sometimes I read some blogs or some reviews. But with Laura, I was just walking home and I thought, let's put it on. I love the name already, so I was instantly hooked. But I was listening to her music out of context before I read into her background or who she was or what she achieved so far, which bands she'd been in. And then I started reading about her and Against Me and her life, and I realised this wasn't going to be a video that I could just throw together quickly. Her journey, not just in her career but also in her life, is incredible. She's probably most notable for being one of the first highly visible punk stars to come out as transgender, and to document the struggles that go alongside that in both her music and lots of video content. From connecting with the punk scene, which is something that we talk about in the Queen Z video, you know, something that's full of, I was watching some punk gigs on Glastonbury this weekend. It is literally just full of big scary white guys. So from her struggles to connect to that as someone who's transgender, to raising a child, I think she's amazing. And I actually urge you to go and watch some of that content. I don't think I'm the best person to speak about this. I'm here to talk about the music, which I think is fucking brilliant. And I really like her album. I think from start to finish it tells a good story, it's funny, it's aggressive, it says the word fuck a lot. And I know someone like my brother, who I'm going to Reading with, will absolutely adore it, especially as he's a massive Frank Turner fan. I think the chances of me checking out her set are pretty huge. Realistically, it looks like she's going to clash with both the tail end of Prosper's DJ set and the Wombats on the main stage. So I'm not sure I'll be able to catch the whole thing, but I think it would be a great warm-up for Royal Blood, and I'd really like to see a little bit of that set. So on the likely to see scale, I'm going to go with an 8 out of 10. What do you think? Have you seen her perform before? Are you a fan of her music? Have you seen Against Me perform before? I love how a couple of years ago the conversation, specifically with Reading, was about a lack of representation. There is a significant rise in female-led bands. This isn't the first transgender person performing on this roster. We've also got Honey Dijon. Queen Z are quite fluid. So I'm really interested to see how this develops, and it's good to see a little bit of diversity. Now, if you are going to call me a cuck for that, then that's your prerogative. Have a nice day. But I'd love to know what you have to say, as long as you're not mean to me. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Cheers, bye.